Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fertility TV. I'm Dr. Mark Sklar, the fertility expert, and I am super excited to be joined today by Bettina, who wrote this amazing story, or book, I should say, called The Joy of Later Motherhood, which is really designed, and we're going to hear her story in just a moment, but it's really designed to encourage and support and honor those women who are trying to conceive a little bit later in life and who have been told no. We're here to tell you yes, and that's what this story is all about. It's about removing that fear and changing the stories that you tell yourself and that have been told to you, and really encouraging you to keep going, because there is success in your future if you continue to do that. So like all my interviews that I share with you, I think they're powerful, important stories and information to share. And for that reason, I've asked Bettina to join me today. And so Bettina, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
So I imagine that maybe some of my followers, because Bettina has been out in the news in the world at different journeys and junctures in her life, are familiar with you. But for those who aren't, can you share a little bit about your story, your history, and how and why you wrote this amazing book?
Yes, of course. So the joy of later motherhood is really very personal to me, because that's what I feel it really is. And I'm one of the women who came to motherhood a little bit later than others. I couldn't make up my mind, honestly, if I want to be a mother or not. I was struggling with that question, and I'm sure other women have that as well. The older you get, the more you have a life that is so established and in itself beautiful. Do you want to change this or not? So there's on one hand the pull towards motherhood, but also was for me rather strongly I'm not quite sure about it. So I am not very quick on the uptake. It took me 43 years until I really said, yes, I would like to have a child. And my husband and we got pregnant so quickly, he was shocked. He couldn't believe it. It's a very funny story. So I knew already for 10 days. I had been in Europe. I found out in Europe that I'm pregnant up on a mountaintop in the Italian Dolomites. And he joined me later, and then I told him, so I was keeping numb for 10 days. I was waiting for the perfect moment, and I told him. And Mark, it was so funny. It took him at least 2 minutes to realize what I even said to him. What? Really? It happened? No way. So he was so happy. So I was 43 when I got pregnant, and 44. So obviously natural pregnancy, natural birth, wonderful pregnancy. And when I had my boy, I was rocking him in my arms, and I thought, this is so wonderful. And, professionally, I'm a journalist. Writing is what I do. That's my profession. I've been doing this for 20 some years. And I thought, wow, this is so great. I want to write a book about this. And only then, so my story is very different to most of the women out there, because only then, after I had my child, I started to do the research. And I also tell you why I didn't do it before. I am third generation of my family of women that have the children in the 40s. Completely normal.
Right.
I didn't think twice about it. My grandmother had a second at 42. That's 75 years ago. My mom had me at 42, which is 40-some years ago. No, it's 48 years ago. I'm very open about my age. And I had my boy at 44. So this is normal to me. I have yet to hear my biological clock tick.
I love it.
Needing a hearing aid, but I still don't seriously. So for me, 44 was normal. And then I started researching, and Mark, I could not believe, like, here I have my healthy baby at 44, and I'm reading one negative headline after the other, one negative statistic, one horrendous, blown out of proportion story. And I feel I'm getting mad. I'm like, that can't be it. No, that can't be true. This cannot be the only narrative that's out there. And so it became very personal to me. I thought, like, no, hang on a second. We have one perspective right now when it comes to older motherhood, and that is full of fear and doubt, and the message, woman, you waited too long, you're too old, your eggs are old, or maybe you don't even have anymore. So I was like really getting so frustrated and slightly mad, I must say. And I'm like, no, hang on a second. And then I started, so I knew my own story, but I wanted to share more than just my own. And being a journalist and doing interviews, this is really what paid my bills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very good in that because people trust me, they really talk to me. And I started interviewing other women. I said, okay, I'm writing a book about motherhood in your 40s. And I started interviewing about 30 women. I live in Washington, D.C., so we are it's easier to find each other. Like in the metropolitan areas, you have more women who come to motherhood later. And after about 30 interviews in, my only criteria was first-time mother over 40. I didn't say how, natural IVF, surrogacy, whatever. And as I said, about 30 interviews in, I noticed that more than half of the women had natural conceptions. And I'm like, ooh, as a journalist, so that's the story, because that's not what you expect.
Right.
And from that moment on, I knew this is a book about how to, like, not just how to, but about women who looked at fertility differently. They were like fertile, they had the healthy babies in the natural way. And this is, from that moment on, this is what I was looking for. And Mark, I tell you, there's so much more fertility out there than we are aware of. We just are not conditioned to look for fertility. We're conditioned to look for infertility.
Yeah.
Keyword we put into Google, not fertility.
Right.
And not strangely enough, I really come to think that us, the women who have the children in the 40s, we're not the outliers. We are actually the norm. But okay, so I
have my theory on that, by the way. But
okay, good, yeah, okay. Just one moment, hold that thought, because I'm losing my train of thought. But no, what I wanted to say was, and then, okay, so then my criteria was natural pregnancy.
Okay.
And I tell you, I never went onto social media to say, hey, I'm looking for women. I never did that. I never even once visited a forum to get interviews. I only asked my friends. I said, okay, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? I easily, just by doing this, found over 60 women in the 40s, natural conceptions in my environment. Easy. So
easy.
Easy. Like no big effort at all. I mean, sometimes I would meet them at the party and, you have to start the conversation.
Right.
But it's easy for me to lead in. I'm like, okay, so how old were you? I was 44, so that's, I can do that. It's a little more tricky when I follow up with the question, was it natural or IVF?
Right.
It's a little more tricky. But I found them easily. So that's why I'm saying this is what I want our viewers to take away, that right now we have one perspective in general, and that's focused on infertility. And what I'm saying is this is not the whole perspective. I want us to also look on this side, look at the fertility. And I really, like with this book, The Joy of Later Motherhood, I was setting out to change the perspective and change the narrative from a doom and gloom scenario to one that's empowering and, in my opinion, much more true.
I love that. I think that's a really, really important message and story, and one that I convey or try to convey very regularly. So quick question, because I didn't count as I was reading the book. I did not count all the stories in here. Are there 60 something stories in here?
No. Because no, as a journalist, I know a very good story when I see it. So I had the interviews which informed my writing in general.
Okay.
I learned so much, and also, I interviewed fertility experts. Their opinion, their work is in here. So that all infused my writing. But I picked the top, in my opinion, 17, 18 stories because they have something special, like a special struggle or special circumstances or so. And so I picked what my top favorite to make my points, but the interviews, all of them infused my writing in general.
Okay, that's what I thought, because as I was reading, I was like, I do not remember reading that many wonderful stories. Okay, so
also, some of them are a little. Yes, so I met my husband. I got pregnant. I had a child.
but there's not much to share there.
Great, but
Yeah.
I need a little more than that.
That's funny. So coming back to my theory, which supports your theory,
Yes.
The internet and the world of Google is amazing. I'm a big lover and supporter of Google. Nothing against it, but I will say that I think the thing that gets lost in all of these things when you start to search online for stories and reading people's reviews and thoughts is typically the woman who had a wonderful experience, things worked out, and had positive journeys and interactions and communications. That's not typically the woman that's going to go shout from the mountaintops on the world of the Google and spread the message of like, everything's going to be great. There is hope for you. Continue to believe. Like, that's not the person that tends to go online. So it's skewed so much towards the negative because the person who's going to go online is the person who needs to vent and express themselves and get things out. And that's the internet is a wonderful avenue for that. I'm not trying to diminish that in any way, but I believe that things get skewed very heavily in that direction.
Oh yeah.
Because of that. And that's why we don't hear, because when things work out for somebody, there was really no reason to go out and scream from the mountaintops because they have nothing to vent, nothing to express. There's just all this gratitude, and they share it with their friends, but they don't go onto the internet to share it. So I find that that's why we hear what we hear. It gets skewed so much in one direction.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And it's also, as human beings, we are wired to remember the negative stories.
Right. Yeah.
In the times, you needed to know where was the mammoth that killed my you needed to remember those things. But today, and I think, you express it so beautifully because it is skewed, and that's why I wrote the book. The book is really a product of love, of service, because the women who had these wonderful experiences, they really open up. When you read the stories, they're really opening up. They're really sharing from their heart. They're talking about the miscarriages. They're talking about what was going on with them. And this is like, for me, the book is like a hub for positivity.
Right.
For the women out there who only get these messages, as you said, from shouting from the mountaintop. And it's very understandable, and I think very healing also for the people who are doing it.
Yes.
And yet, as a woman with hope and inspiration, this scares the living daylight out of you.
Yeah.
And also as a journalist, as I said, I've been doing this for quite a few years. The negative stories sell. Just the other day, a friend from Germany sent me an article, and it said, it started positive, actually. It was like, okay, so women come to motherhood later in life, and so on and so on and so on. And then it lasted, like, the risks are so much higher for stillbirth and all these risks. And it was like really, really, and I'm like, oh, really? And then at the very end, Mark, I have to look for it. At the very end, it stated that the risk of stillbirth, I think it was stillbirth, that the risk of whatever it was, for a woman 40 to 44 years old is not even 1% higher than for a woman 20 to 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's not even 1%, but reading from the headline, you would think, oh my God.
Right. These are the stories that people don't understand. This is how statistics get skewed for a news article or to support their hypothesis or whatnot. And one thing I want to convey to everyone listening is when most of the numbers, when you start looking at statistics for success rates and fertility and so forth, most of those numbers get pulled from the IVF community, right? Yes. So that's first and foremost. And second, what you have to recognize is already the population of couples that go to IVF are already you're already skewing the population, the statistics, right? They're not getting those numbers from everybody in the world. They're getting the numbers from the people who have already had challenges or difficulties for whatever reason. So those numbers are already skewed towards the negative, right? Those numbers are already going to be lower. So you have to understand what you're looking at and this perspective. And the same thing, just as you say, this stillbirth thing, right? It's not even 1% difference from that age, from the lower age group to the higher age group. it brings back a memory and a story of, it's not about fertility. It's about when my wife was pregnant with my oldest son. So you go in and you have your ultrasound, or one of your ultrasounds, and they're looking, and we went in for what's called the anatomical scan. It happens somewhere between usually 16 to 20 weeks, and they're measuring everything in the body to make sure everything looks good. And what I came to realize later, not at the time, was that when you go into these texts and these scans for liability issues and for insurance issues and so forth, to cover their ass, if you will. Yeah. When they do these scans, they're doing them and looking at them from the perspective of, I want to find something that's wrong to make sure that we're covered, that we've seen it, we've documented it. They're not looking at things. They didn't say this. This is my understanding, and I'll tell you why. They're not looking at things from, oh, let's just make sure everything's okay. They're trying to find things wrong. And the reason I say that is because they found something wrong with my son's kidney. And they said, okay, it doesn't seem to be too much of a concern, but we want to monitor it. I want to see you in a month. And this went on, I think, 2 more times. And at one point, I questioned it. And I said, so we've come in 3 times. Nothing's really changed. Everything seems okay. So let me ask you a couple of questions. I was like, if you find something right now, what are you going to do about it? They said, nothing. We can't do anything until the baby's born. I'm like, okay. Second, what's the normal range of size that you're looking for? And they told me. And I said, and what is the size that you're measuring right now? And they told me. And it was within normal range, right? So I was like, so why are we coming in? What is it that we're doing here month after month? What's the purpose? You can't do anything about it anyway.
Yes.
And everything looks normal. They had no answer for me.
So what was it? The worst case scenario? They're looking.
Yeah, they're just looking for doom and gloom, right? They're just looking like, oh, we saw it, check some boxes just in case something comes up later. We saw it, we told the parents.
So the liability thing.
The liability issue. This is what happens.
How old was your wife at the time? Did they also check because of her age?
Well, sure. I mean, partly because she was in her late 30s. Mm-hmm. But
do you think it could have been that too?
I don't doubt it at all. But my point is with this is like the Western conventional model is about looking at all the negative things. It's about looking at the fearful things. It's about scare tactics. And I'm not saying that these people are doing it purposely. It's the way they've been trained. They think, okay, we've got to find all these things so that we can document it and highlight it and all of these stories. Everything in the end, most of the time turns out fine because this is what we do. This is who we are. And this book is a testament to that in so many ways, because you're told all these fearful, scary things to make you concerned that you can't get pregnant later in life and you have to do X, Y, and Z. Yes. This book is here to tell you something different. So I think one of the bigger messages for you, Bettina, in this story is the one about fear. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, of course, because I do believe that maybe also your wife was treated already a little bit different because of age.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Also puts fear in you, and it doesn't have to be there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, talking about fear. So my what I found in my research is also that we focus usually when we come to pregnancy only on the body. Like there's something wrong with the body, it's broken, we need to fix it. Bring out the tools, fix it, do whatever. And we are so focused on the body. And in my research, it's really very, very, very strongly. I know now that there is a very big mind aspect, a mental aspect, emotional, and also spiritual aspect. And the fears can come in on very many levels, and maybe we're not even so much aware of them. And let me give you one example. There's one woman. So I'm using Jenny because her example is so colorful. It may sound a little bit extreme, but bear with me again. I picked the stories because they're most memorable, not because they're boring. Okay.
And she's the story in the book, just for everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So Jenny is a woman. She's an American living in London. She's also a journalist, or was at the time, and she was attracted to the men that are more gregarious, more like the war correspondents, the ones that were the adrenaline junkies.
Yeah.
And she was hanging out in the bar and with them, and she said, she was going to the usual hangout, and she said to me, Bettina, it is very hard to have a conversation, even if you're in a relationship with another journalist, with a man, and you want to have this baby conversation, and he is more concerned about what's happening in Afghanistan and the next insurgents, so that didn't work. And very often, by the way, I found in my interviews there's this notion out there in the world that women are coming to motherhood later in life because they're so career oriented. They are so selfish and focused on themselves. And no. Most of the women in my book, they said, I could have had a child early on if my partner would have come earlier, or if my partner would have been ready earlier.
Yeah.
So Jenny decides to change her life. Her 40th birthday is approaching. She doesn't go to the bar anymore, changes, dates different men. She was fine at 40. At 41, another relationship broke up. This woman was so full of fear that her dream, I said, what was it? She said she was so much longing for a partner to love, just have a relationship, a child to hold, a child to grow up, that she was so fearful in her mind, not her body, so fearful in her mind that she, in her own words, she drove herself crazy. She was seeing her psychologist, she said, Jenny, you are sick. You have to go to an inpatient facility to get treatment.
Really?
Yeah, she was driving herself so crazy. And here's what she did. And she said, before she did that, she was home alone in her house in London. And she was so overcome with the feeling and the wish to have a child that she, in her fantasy, she said, I lit the candles, I played beautiful music, and then I gave birth to my imaginary child in my living room, to my imaginary daughter. And I scooped her up, I put her in a blanket, I was holding her, I was loving her. And then I went outside in my garden and I threw her up in the air. And I said, God, if you can, please bring her back to me. I'm ready. And she tells me this, and I'm saying, Jenny, my God, this is either the most wonderful, ancient, instinctual thing that you did that I've ever heard of, or you had a psychotic episode. It's either or. I was like, which one was it? And she says, no, in hindsight, I was not. That part was something that was really saying to me, there was something that I could do. She, in her action, she surrendered. She surrendered to something higher. She realized, okay, this may not be only up to me. She gave over to God. She believes in God. She gave over to the universe, to God, and said, please bring her back to me. And so for her, it was something, she says, there was a much better thing to do than crawling into my bed, crawling up in a fetal position and just crying. So there's this surrender part. This is where the spirituality comes in. This, okay, I'm letting go. I realize this may not be only up to me. And she gives over. She literally gives her child to God. Mind you, it didn't save her. I mean, she still had to go to the inpatient facility to get treatment.
Right.
Yeah, so, but there's just something really big there. So she still needed to go there. And she said it was off the coast of England on an island, and she went for walks, and she still felt sort of a spirit of a child walking with her. And then she had some tests done about fertility before she went into treatment. And there was one doctor, psychiatrist, that she really liked, and he had her test, and he said, so I have your results. Do you want to know them? And she says, yes, absolutely. And he says to her, you are perfectly healthy. You are physically perfectly healthy, 41 years old woman. There is no reason you couldn't have a child, and I believe you will. These words, it was seriously in her mind, these words and the belief of somebody that she trusted.
Yeah.
Extremely helpful. So I can only say to any woman out there, get your trusted team together. That's your support team. You know, find the person that you want to work with, who you really trust, who you can open up to and receive the guidance that you get. And so she comes out from that 2 or 3 weeks, how long ever she was from her stay in from the facility, and she feels renewed hope because now she knows nothing is wrong with her body. She got the treatment there for her mind, and she also was through the dark night of her soul. She says, I'm coming out, and I knew whatever comes, I will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another red thread through all my stories. At some point, there's the realization, I will be okay either way.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Again, it's like, this is just like the most colorful story to make these points. I will be okay. She comes out in September. I think she went on a healing journey to India for about a month. Christmas, she meets two men. One lives in London. One is from New York, where she originally was from. She makes a sensible decision, dates the guy from London.
Good.
Within 2 or 3 months in the relationship, he says to her, Jenny, I'm also not a spring chicken. I forgot how old he was, also in his 40s. Let's try. Mark, she was pregnant within another 2 months. So within a year and some of her release from the facility, she had not only a child, she had her daughter. She had the daughter, and a year and a half later, her boy.
It's great.
I know, this is like such an amazing story that illustrates so well this letting go aspect and this knowing, okay, either way, I will be okay. So she overcame the fear with help.
Yeah.
Yes? And also just that ritual that she did of giving her child over. There's something really, again, I would like to encourage all of our listeners, viewers here, to not just look at pregnancy as something physical, that the body is broken and needs to be fixed. Big picture view, much big picture.
It's such a powerful story in so many ways. Just her instinctual, and I get the chills when you tell it. When I read it in the book, I didn't get the same sort of emotional response.
Yeah.
But there's several things that I want to point out to all the people who are listening about this. Is first and foremost, her instinctual creation of her future little girl, right? Instinctually, she did this, right? And this is something I talk about with my patients often, about creating the life and the world that you want, creating the family, creating the child that you want. And she did it in a way that, she did it differently than I guide, but it's still the creation process, right? You're still creating that. And then giving it away, I talk about putting it out into the universe, and she gave it back up into, it's a very similar process back and forth in terms of what I often ask my patients to do. So that is, I think, super, super powerful for all of you who, it might sound crazy to all of you, to some of you, but I'm telling you that if you don't believe that you can create the world you live in and your life to thrive and have what you want, I'm here to tell you you can, and my life is a testament to it. And I can tell you example after example. And Jenny's story is another example of that. So that's the first thing that really, jumps out and I want to emphasize. And the second one, I think surrender is so powerful. This surrender process, it's not giving up. I don't want you all to think about giving up. It's very different. It's giving into the process. Stop trying to control it all. Stop trying to control every little thing, and really giving into the process to surrender to everything will be okay. Life will work out. I will work within it. It's a different thought process. And so surrender and giving up are not the same thing, just to be clear.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I would like to add one point here also, is that when she came out, she says, I will be okay either way. That's also very important.
Yes.
Because, you also may realize, so the wish for a child maybe also be more in focus and highlighted more when you know okay, at some point my fertility, like, at some point it's over for all of us. So when you feel that this window is closing, that may enhance the feeling for a child.
Right.
Not necessarily, it may be just a feeling, but in the process of creating your life and just reaching the point of, okay, either way you'll be okay, you may also realize you're very happy also without it.
Yeah. I think that's an important concept to understand, because what we end up doing so much when there's something we really want desperately, we suffocate it. We constrict everything so much. Everything is so tight and tense around, I need that specific thing. And when that happens, it's very hard for anything to be created in that constriction. If we think about the way, whether you believe in God or science, if you think about the way the world was created, either way, the stories say the same thing. There was an expansion to create space before creation actually occurred. It didn't occur out of constriction. It occurred out of expansion, out of creation, right? Out of space. And the same thing is true for this. The more we constrict and strangle our desire to have a child, the more difficult it is for us to actually create it and give birth to it, right? We need to create space for it.
Yes. And it sounds a little new agey what you're saying, and a little woo-woo, but that is
but
so
it's true.
Yes, exactly. In the expansion, you may also find your truth that, hey, I feel whole as a woman without a child.
Yeah.
It's like, I could not agree with much. There's something, that's why that the spiritual aspect, the personal growth aspect of it all, the emotional aspect, there's so much more to pregnancy than just the physical body. It's like, not even funny. It's like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I by no means are we saying give up. Not at all.
No.
It's about encouragement and creating space, but also being comfortable with where you are and knowing that everything will be okay, and that you will achieve the things that you want. And I think there's this peace that comes with that really makes everything a lot easier. And I see this repeatedly in patients. And I will encourage all of you, if you are thinking, like Bettina said, that this sounds very strange and new agey and out there. In many ways it is, and I understand that, but I want to encourage you to just, in retrospect, look at your life. Look at what you've achieved, and when you've achieved them and how you've achieved it. Go back and analyze it. And I promise, whether it was done consciously or subconsciously, what we're saying actually occurred for you to continue to grow and for things to be created. And so this is the same thing.
Yeah. It's wonderful if we can express a process or so in different languages, so people can totally understand. And I would just, if I can, go a little woo-woo here, even more for a moment here. for all our women, our listeners who have that feeling that there is a child around them,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I have it somewhere. One of the books that I read in preparation, in my research, and I read many of those, let me tell you, many books in general, is called Spirit Baby. And the idea is that there is already a connection between parents and the future children. And that the spirits of a child can already be in our orbit for some time. So to all the women out there and men who feel like, I feel as the presence of somebody, of a child next to me, I want to say, you are not crazy. You are not crazy. This is absolutely possible that you already feel it. You may just be very intuitive, but you're not crazy. There is this, like, if you look for Spirit Babies, look for the book. If you come to join my community, can I say this, at bettinagordon.com?
Of course you can. And we'll have a link for it, just so everyone knows. We'll have a link for it in the comment section and in my blog post. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. I have, for example, an interview with a woman who studied with the author of Spirit Babies, and her name is Nancy May, and we're talking all about Spirit Babies. So if you're interested in that, I have a very good interview for you as well. So there's just like more to life than we may even be aware of. And if you are aware of, you're not crazy. You have maybe a spirit.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, any last minute things that you want to mention or say?
Yes. Yeah. I would really want to say to every woman listening, age is not your number one predictor of your fertility. Mark tells you that all the time. Yes. And now I'm here to chime in. It is not. It is your health. And the problem that I see is that because of all the media attention that we get, and we get it from the parents, we get it from friends and so on. So when are you going to have the baby? When are you going to make me a grandfather, grandmother? Take a deep breath. You have all the time you need to become the best parent that you want to be. There is no need to buy into this crazy narrative that just says rush, 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 don't, like every month count. It's like go, 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 go. As Mark said before, it will serve you much more to take a deep breath and take the time to expand. That will make your conception of the baby that you've been dreaming and feeling for years much more easily happen than if you go with the time, the ticking clock. No more ticking clock, okay? No more. From now on, we think about age as just a number in the driver's license.
Yes.
You are more than your age. You are not a statistic. Step away from the stats buffet, please. Yeah? And get some inspiration right here.
Beautifully said. I will wrap up and just tell everyone, as another means of giving you hope and belief and trust in yourself, is that I've helped women and seen women from the ages of 40 to 51 conceive. I know it can be done. I know you have the power within you to do it. You have to take a step back, believe in yourself, trust in your female body to do what it needs to do. Some of us still need a little bit of help, but the most important thing is that we are healthy both physically, emotionally, and mentally, and spiritually. And if we can provide all of those things, then age is just a number that signifies how many times you've circled the sun and nothing more. It's the only thing you can't change about you. The only thing. So, Bettina, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for writing this book and sharing the stories in here with everybody. If you have not gotten a copy, go out, check it out. It's actually today, the day we're filming.
Yes.
Today is the day that it releases. So congratulations to you.
Yes, thank you. It's a big day for me. I'm very happy to have this interview today. Thank you.
Yeah, it's exciting. And, we'll have all the links to everything for the book, to Bettina, in the comment section here on Fertility TV. If you're watching this on my blog post, it will be in my blog. And if you want to get this straight into your inbox, so you get all the links right into your inbox, and you haven't signed up for my newsletter, then please do so at marksklar.com/newsletter. If you like this video, then give us a thumbs up. If you've got questions for Bettina or I, then post them below, and we will do our best to get back to you on that. And if you want to get the next notification when my next video on YouTube gets released, which is typically once a week, then subscribe to my YouTube channel. And once again, to all of you, stay fertile, be fertile, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Are you looking for a fertility coach? Are you looking for someone to guide you with your personal needs one-on-one? Well, that can be me. If you want more information on that, check it out right here.